Welcome back to Elevation 44, where we learn how to master our energy. We do that through three main areas: spiritual alchemy, astrology, and holistic living. It's your girl B. Welcome back to the channel. For those of you who are returning, if you're new, welcome fam. You're in for a real treat today. What are we talking about? We're talking all about sea moss. And if you watch my antiviral solutions, natural antiviral solutions video, you will see I talked all about sea moss and how it is not only a great antiviral solution, but there are so many amazing benefits to using sea moss on a daily basis. Even if you don't use it on a daily basis, on an every other day basis, it is such a valuable natural asset to have in your pantry and to incorporate in your health routine, okay? I attribute sea moss to not getting sick. For a year now, I have not been sick. Not a cold, not a sniffle, not a sneeze, nothing. And this is coming from the person who used to get sick all the time. Like every 2 weeks I was sick. Every time my son caught a cold, I got a cold. Every time the wind blew, I got a cold. Like it didn't matter, I was always sick. And I literally have not been sick for over a year now, and I attribute it to sea moss, okay? It has changed my life. And not only has it changed my life, it's changed my son's life, because like I said, he was getting sick often. You know, kids go to school, they get up, pick up germs and all of that type of stuff. And he has not been sick at all. Our immune system is so strong. And that's why I want to let you guys know about sea moss and how to make it. In the last video, I talked about bringing you guys, or trying to get a recipe, sea moss gel recipe together, so you guys know how to make the gel. It's super easy, it's really potent, and I like the gel more than the capsule form because it is more potent. It has more of those vital nutrients in it. So there's nothing wrong with taking the capsule form of sea moss, but if you really want the nutrients, the gel is the way to go. So you just have to get your hands on some authentic sea moss. So do your research, people, read the reviews, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But if you haven't watched that video on the natural antiviral solutions, I'm gonna link it in the description box so you can check that out. I kind of go into sea moss and a lot of the benefits of it, but I'm just gonna quickly highlight a few. Number one, it being that it has 92 of the trace minerals in our body, 92 of the 102, I should say. So there are 102 trace minerals in our bodies. Sea moss contains 92 of those, okay? So this is like a natural multivitamin. In addition to it being antiviral, it's anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, it's anti-inflammatory, it's anti-everything, okay? It's also a natural probiotic, so it's great for keeping gut health in check, and probiotics are so vital to keeping your immune system healthy and vital and functioning, okay? It also has protein, it has calcium, it has fiber, okay? And it works as a natural appetite suppressant. So it's great for keeping your weight in check, and also, boosting your metabolism, okay? In addition, sea moss is also alkaline. It has an alkalizing effect, I think that's how you say, on the body, okay? So if you don't know, a lot of our diet today tends to lean towards the acidic side, and when our body's in that acidic mode, it really puts us in a state where it makes our organs and everything like work harder than they need to, and that's kind of where the body goes into dis-ease, where disease then is born, okay? So keeping our body in that alkaline state is most optimal for a healthy functioning system, okay? And the last thing I guess I will say about sea moss, just to kind of wrap it up, even though this is not the last thing that it really does, the list goes on, but it also removes heavy metals from the body. So we're kind of in a society where we're, kind of worried about so many of the, I have to be very careful with my words here because I don't want to trigger a flag, but we're worried about getting certain shots, right? And our children getting certain shots that contain heavy metals in it. So this sea moss is great for flushing those types of things out of our system, and not only is it great for flushing those things out of our system, those heavy metal buildups and those toxins that can lead to disease, right, and to suppress our immune system, but it also contains its own soluble organic forms of metals like silver and iron and copper and all of that stuff. So sea moss is a heavy hitter, okay? So now that I've just kind of briefly blew through some of the benefits of sea moss, let's go into making this gel. Super, super easy. The things that you're gonna need are some dried sea moss, okay? You're gonna need a bowl, all right, and some fresh water. You're also gonna need a container to put your sea moss gel in when it's done. I always like to have some hot water on hand for blending, and I have about a cup here. We will not use that much, but I just like to have extra here just in case. A spoon and a pair of kitchen scissors. Okay, so let's get right into it. So this is dried sea moss, and this is what it looks like in its dry form. Now what you want to look for when you have dried sea moss is obviously it's coated in salt, okay, to preserve it. And then it also has like little pieces of sand in it and other like sea debris in it. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you this up close is because if your sea moss does not have these elements, you're probably looking at a sea moss product that is not actually authentic, okay? You want your sea moss to come from the ocean. You want it to have all those vital nutrients and things that I discussed. You don't want it coming from someone's chlorinated pool or wherever else they have pulled the sea moss from that is not in its organic form. So I just wanted to show you up close what it looked like so you can see. Now, you don't need a whole lot of this. You just need a little bit because a little goes a long way. When you soak it, I'm gonna show you in a second how when you soak it, this thing really does plump up. So if you just take a little bit out in your hand like this, it doesn't look like a lot, but when we start working with it, it will definitely be much more than you think, okay? So once you have your dried sea moss, you wanna go ahead and put that into your bowl. You take how much ever you need. To make about this much of a container, I go ahead and I'd probably pull out maybe like half a cup to 3/4 of a cup of dried sea moss. And so what I'll do is I'll put it in a bowl and I'll rinse it a couple of times with water. So what I would do is rinse it about 3 to 4 times. I usually, that usually is the amount that it takes for it to run clear so that all the sand and everything, all the sea debris and stuff is off of the sea moss. And then once I have everything rinsed, the sea moss rinsed really well, what I'll go on ahead and do is drain all the water, and then I'll get some filtered water or drinking water, nothing tap water, right? Because tap water has chlorine and all of that stuff. And remember, our sea moss is dried, and so it's going to plump up, which means it's going to absorb the water. So you want to use fresh water, bottled water, drinking water, filtered water, whatever floats your boat, but you want to use a good source of water. So you just go ahead and you fill up your bowl with some water. And so this is my sea moss that I have added into the bowl and I covered with water. You want to make sure that the water completely covers the sea moss. And this is going to sit for about 24 hours, okay? It's usually 24 hours I find is the trick in making sure it's fully, has fully expanded and taking in all the water and plumped up to its most optimal point. Okay, so this is the sea moss in its water and it's been sitting for about 24 hours now, so you can see it's plumped up quite nicely and looks a lot differently than it did in its dried form. So now that our sea moss is nice and plumped and ready for use, what we're gonna do is we're gonna also have our blender nearby, and I failed to mention that you're gonna need a blender for this, okay? So you definitely wanna have a blender. So I'm gonna grab my container for the blender, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the sea moss and I'm gonna take my scissors and I'm going to cut the sea moss in small pieces into the blender and drop it into the blender. And the reason why I'm cutting it is because if you have these long rubbery tentacles from the sea moss, wrap around your blender blade, it might destroy your blender, and you don't want that, right? So we want to go ahead and cut them, and I usually cut them in probably about 1-inch pieces, and I find that that does the trick, and it also helps to blend things down much more smoothly and easier when we start blending, because if the pieces are too long, then it takes a long time to kind of get it all blended down. So I want to mention that some people actually like to boil or cook their sea moss down. And, you know, my family is from the Caribbean, and we know all about sea moss gel. Like, we're, you know, we're surrounded by sea moss being in the islands, right? Being in the Caribbean. So this is something that we have known about for eons before this was brought to mainstream culture, right? Before, you know, Americans and other cultures started getting hip to the game, we've been new at this, all right? So in a lot of West Indian you know, preparation, they boil the sea moss, and they usually make it into a drink form with sugar. It's pretty sweet and stuff like that, and it's kind of known to be like a good natural aphrodisiac and all of that stuff, which I didn't mention before, but yes, it is a natural aphrodisiac as well. But I do not boil my sea moss, because I feel like, just like any other vegetable, if you're boiling it, you're taking a lot of the vital nutrients out of it, right? You're boiling it right on out of the you know, the plant or whatever that you're using, so, or the vegetable. So what I want to make sure is that I want all of my nutrients in there, because this is why we're taking the sea moss in the first place, is to have those nutrients. So I want to make sure that I'm not, you know, cooking or blending it down, and that's why I rather have the hot water to add during the blending process to aid in making it smoother, instead of boiling it down to make it a little bit more easy to work with. So I hope that makes sense to you guys, and I think once we start blending, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm gonna finish cutting up the rest of this, and when I'm done, we're gonna add everything into the blender and get to blending. All right, so I have all of my sea moss nicely chopped in here, and what I'm gonna do is add a little bit of water, just a little bit to start with. So I'm probably adding about half a cup. And I'm gonna add my lid on. I'm gonna pull my blender a little bit closer to me so you guys can see what's going on. And so I'm just gonna go ahead and start blending. I start on the lowest setting, and then obviously I turn it slowly up until it gets faster and it blends down more smoothly and go higher and higher in speed. So let's start blending. Okay, so I've just blended. I am looking at my sea moss gel. It looks blended, but it still looks a little bit chunky. So what I'm gonna do at this time is just add a little bit more water. And you wanna just, at this point, eyeball it, because you wanna see what your consistency looks like. You want it thick, but you don't want it, you know, so thick that it's chunky and that it's hard to work with, because again, it has to have a little bit of smoothness, not only, and not a runniness, but it's got to be between kind of a gel and a little bit of a runniness, because when it goes into the refrigerator, it actually firms up even more. So you don't want it so firm in here that when you put it in the refrigerator, it's like really hard to work with. You want to be able to mash it down and get it, in your foods and different items in your smoothies. So making sure that consistency is right is key. So let's blend a little bit more. Okay, so I'm gonna take another look at my gel, and the way it looks now is I'm very pleased with the way it looks. So I'm gonna go ahead and transfer it to my container, and then I'm going to show you close up what it should look like. Okay, so this is my gel. I've transferred it to a jar, and that is pretty much what it looks like. You see that consistency? It's smooth and creamy, but it's not runny. And again, it's gonna firm up some that when it's in the refrigerator. So this is kind of the consistency that you're looking for. So the last thing left to do is just put your lid on top and stick it in the refrigerator. So the sea moss gel will keep in the refrigerator for about 3 weeks. Is about the time I see that it really does well. You can also freeze it. I've never put it in the freezer, so I like to use mine fresh. And the way that I do it is I take about a tablespoon a day and I will mash it in a little bit of applesauce. You can also put it in a smoothie. You can put it in your oatmeal. You know, do what works for you, however you want to take it. That's up to you. I will caution that it has a healthy dose of iodine, being that it is a sea plant. So if you are going to take sea moss, I really want to tell you that you know, you want to watch your iodine intake if you're taking another multivitamin or something like that, because it can cause issues. All right, I am not a medical doctor, so we're always reach out to your own medical practitioner to make sure that you are fully in the know about anything that you want to take or put into your body. Okay, the last thing I'll say is that if you get to the end of your 3 weeks or whatever time and you feel like your sea moss is not, you have some leftover sea moss and you don't feel like it's fresh enough to eat, this is amazing on the skin as well. You can put it on your skin as a nice face mask. It works as a natural collagen. Like, look up some videos on people using sea moss as a face mask. Like, I'm not making this type of stuff up, people. Like, this, it's like the miracle sea plant, okay? So I want you guys to just always do your research in everything that you do. Never take anyone's word for it, even mine. And one last tip I will say is I like to just kind of take a dry erase marker and write the date on top of the lid, because it then washes off really easy, but it helps me know when I made it so I can keep track of how long it's actually good in the refrigerator. So that is it, guys. This is all I have for you. I hope you appreciate it, because I know I've been promising it and I don't want to leave you guys hanging, but you know, I am too trying to balance this content and balance life, so it, you know, just took a little bit more time than usual to get it out. Now, I have a lot more interesting stuff coming your way. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't, if you want to learn more about some of the other tips and stuff. I mean, I have a lot of good protection stuff coming your way, so you know, you want to hit that subscribe button. You definitely want to hit that subscribe button to stay in the know. If you also think someone else would benefit from this information, please share the video. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the sea moss gel if you end up trying to make it yourself, or if you're taking it and you see some type of results from it. Would love to hear like your experience with it. And that's it, guys. See you in the next video. Peace.